Hello, gardening fans, and welcome to Marvin Gardens May 2023. We've been shooting this May garden video on the last Monday in May, which makes it the day on which we celebrate Memorial Day. So that's pretty nice. Nice way to spend a Memorial Day and a Memorial Day weekend just passed. We had a family gathering, Memorial Day / birthday celebration on Sunday, and that was pretty nice. And it's a beautiful May day here, and there's lots going on in the garden. May, the busiest outdoor month at Sky Manor, as usual. And we've had May babies and wildlife sightings, and we've had garden disasters and fatalities and surprises, and but everything's going pretty good. So we'll get to those when we get to them. Let's start by swinging around here and looking down, and that's Cassie's butt there. She's sniffing around into something in the grass there that she thinks is interesting. But she's out here and having a good time. And we'll start with what used to be the herb garden, as you may recall. Still got lots of Asian leeks, but the rest of it is, as you recall, pond irises. Now we've got two varieties, these delightful little purple ones, and the yellow ones, which are kind of on their last hurrah here in this section of the garden. And I think I'm going to try to go in and maybe pull out these purple ones, because I'm afraid they're going to get completely crowded out and smothered by the yellow ones, which are all over the place from one little group that we got many years ago. Mr. Coco has a fresh coat of paints and is looking very fine, and he's glad to be out from under the Asian leeks, more of which are right there too. In fact, I think even tucked behind here there's a cinnamon basil, which is the basil that we're growing this year. And there's the greenhouse, still kind of messy and nothing going on in there. In fact, I got to get that pot out of there because there's nothing growing in it worth any significance whatsoever. But here we come to the mini barn, and as you can see in the mini greenhouse, we got a bunch of annuals and some hens and chicks and a expired can of Fresca. So we have those still to plant around and about, and we've got all the hanging planters on the mini barn planted, and this year we're going with marigolds, you might be able to tell. So that brings us to bed number one. Now, and there's our first sort of disaster. There's 2 rows of different varieties of carrots planted right there, as you can tell by the signs. And other than maybe 1 or 2, nothing's come up. So looks like I'm going to have to plant them again. I never had that happen that I recall. But next to them is 2 healthy-looking rows of the daikon radishes, those big Korean radishes that we have discovered are a pretty good potato substitute, and a gorgeous couple of rows of Salanova bib lettuce, And we've already harvested 4 heads, and you can see that they're showing no signs of bolting, and so that's one of the best looking couple of rows of lettuce I've ever had. That brings us to brassicas, and I'm growing some red cabbage for the first time this year. Don't know why I never thought of it before, but there they are. And next to them, I've got some Skywalker cauliflower, which is looking pretty good, except for that one there, which is one of the casualties I referenced earlier. And because of that, you'll notice it doesn't look like cauliflower or cabbage. That's because it's kale. I just got a couple of kale plants to fill in the vacancies caused by the casualties. Now, next to the Skywalker cauliflower are storage number 4 cabbage. Also looking very good so far, so that's pretty good. And we got early snow cauliflower, which are a very small variety of cauliflower. And they come in, but they do come in early, which is, I guess, why they're called early snow. But you can see that one's ready to go. It's starting to separate a little bit. And but there's another sort of casualty. I don't know what happened. Every once in a while, one of those plants, I don't know if I just happened to plant it next to something that eats roots or what. But anyway, at least it's only one per variety. And so next here is a stand of broccoli, also looking nice and healthy, and Brussels sprouts, except for one which did not make it and has been replaced with a green kale, whereas the other one over here was a red kale. Now, that brings us to the herb garden proper, and we've got basil. Cinnamon basil is the variety. Haven't tried that before. I thought it sounded interesting. Got some garlic chives or Asian leeks right there, a little cluster, and also some chives down here. I don't even remember what variety. They've been snipped or chewed off a little bit, but otherwise they're coming in, as evidenced by the purple bloom there. And then we've got some parsley coming in, which is also looking quite healthy. And this is sage that we planted from seed. But you remember we had sage plant that wintered over, and it looked like it was about to bloom, and all of a sudden it just died, which is kind of what sage tends to do sometimes. Every once in a while, one of the plants just says, I've had it. But because of what we've planted and still surviving, we do have parsley, sage, rosemary, including some that wintered over, and a new plant that I bought just because not much of it wintered over, rosemary, and thyme. In fact, 2 varieties of thyme. This wintered over. Look at the creeping thyme. It just is very happy. And I started from seed some winter thyme that I've grown before and had good luck with. So those little seedlings have been set out. They will probably come close to matching the spread of the creeping thyme. But they've got a while to go yet. Now, these 4 rows are the cutting celery, as you may recall. And right down here, although you can't really tell from looking at it, we had baby bunnies. And gardeners don't generally like bunnies, but baby bunnies are hard to resist. And so I think I have a little video hear of the baby bunny story, I'll show you that right about now. On their own. It's possible that right now they're just flexing their muscles until they're ready to come out. But this is the first time I've actually been able to see a little head down there. Let me see if I see if they're thinking about it. There is a lot.
Shine the light. Shine the light.
There's all their little ears. Oh, there we go.
See them all. Oh my God, they're so cute. How many? Four?
Their eyes aren't even open yet.
There's four. Only
There's at least 4.
so beautiful. One, two, four.
No doubt about that now that they're bunnies. Eyes are still not open yet. We think we counted 7 so far. I've gone so far as to gently try to pat them on the forehead, which they don't seem to mind. Oh, and this is where they are. The cutting celery end of bed number 1. They're starting to venture a little ways out. And, oh, I don't know if you can see there, but that's an eye open. Let's see if I can get away with patting one. He doesn't seem to mind. Nor does he. So that's the original den. And you would have thought maybe they've flown the coop, but they're not that far away. Yeah, I think you can see them down there. I won't disturb them. And yesterday I counted 9 heads. So they're about ready to take off, but I'm still going to see if Mama comes back and corrals them all one more time. Once they start venturing out, then I'm going to have to do a relocation because bunnies and vegetable gardens don't mix. That's one of them up close with eyes wide open. And so they finally all dispersed. I've seen them out and about, a lot of them, outside the garden, inside the garden. As recently as today, I did unfortunately find one that did not make it, but of the 9 total, I think most of them made it fine there and are out on their own now. That brings us to the last row here. And that is melons, cantaloupe to be specific. And I'm hoping with my new regimen for planting and maintaining cucurbits that we'll get some melons out of here. I gave them a little trellis to climb up on, so we'll see what happens with that. Now, not that I really want to show you this because it's in such poor shape, but there's the memorial area, and poor little sleeping dachshund is kind of overcome with grass there, but we'll get in there and clean that up once we, now that we're all planted. And as you can see, yellow pond irises everywhere. They are just unstoppable. And we've had a very dry month or so. So there's no sogginess out there. We've had lots of sunshine, and it's been pretty nice because, of course, we've got the automated watering in the garden. So let's see. Whoops, I'm aiming the wrong direction. Right down there, you can see the Dill's Atlantic Giant Pumpkin. It's not getting as big as I was expecting it to do. In fact, it's still growing up. It hasn't started vining. Whoops. But hopefully that'll change. And more pond irises. Well, eventually I'm going to have to probably move them away from here. I got a volunteer sunflower of some sort coming up. There's some more of that cinnamon basil. And this was a volunteer borage plant, I believe. Now, next here we got a couple of rows, one of which is like a V-shaped row, of cilantro slash, what the heck? I just forgot. Cilantro, coriander. Okay, so this is a very controversial herb, as it's been described to me. Either you love it or you hate it. So although I've grown it before, I can't really remember whether I loved it or hated it, so I thought I'd better grow it again and taste it and decide for myself. Now, way down there is cumin. Almost indetectable, but it is coming in, so we'll see how that does. And then we got a couple of rows of calendula of different varieties. I think they're both mixes, actually. Now, this brings us to onions and, well, and me. Hi, everybody. Good to see you again. I start my onions every year with little plants, which looks like chopped off scallions. And I plant them, and I always have pretty good luck with them. Well, this year, no. 95% of them, easy, just died. I don't know if I let them dry out or what the problem was. So I did an emergency order of onion sets, which are little immature bulbs, instead of young plants, and planted all those. And thank goodness they all are doing just fine. And so I don't know what it was, but apparently they weren't bothered by whatever it was. There's a couple of spotty looking rows of scallions here in the middle of all that, but they should come around pretty well. All right, so as you get to watch my shadow, come around here to bed number 3, and got a row of sunflowers down here, and also I think a couple varieties of strawflower, and some cosmos, and one carthamus, which I didn't even know I bought. They're pretty spotty coming in. That big thing right there in the center is a weed, and that's a dachshund. Now, brings us to our next set of casualties. Summer squash, which I really have never had a problem getting started, at least. Of my 3 zucchini plants, only one of them, that big one in the middle, survived. I ended up planting seeds after the fact, and thankfully they seem to be coming in. But I also bought some store-bought zucchini plants just in case, so this space won't support that many summer squash plants all season, but I'll just weed them out as time goes on and keep the ones that are healthy. Same thing happened with my crookneck squash. So I didn't get crookneck, but I did get a a variety of yellow squash there. And same with the patty pan, but I couldn't find any scallop squash, so those are just some more of the yellow squash. And we'll see who makes it and who doesn't. And that brings us to this bed, and the corn bed is already looking kind of magnificent, even though it's only been in the ground for a few weeks. I think I have a still of the flats because I like to grow them indoors and then transplant them, and I think I also have a time lapse of transplanting them, and I plant them in twos just in case. Like for example, you'll see right in between those two should be another stalk, but I've got so many pairs out there that not PEARS, PAIRS, that I'll just dig one set up and split them apart, put one back where it belongs, and then the other one will go in these vacancies. I haven't seen too many vacancies, but I got maybe 3 or 4. Anyway, but the bed itself is doing very fine, and the ones that are doubled together, I've never had a problem where they interfere with each other. In other words, they both yield corn. So I'm probably just going to let the doubles grow up and see how they do. And so that's that story. Now, I think we're finally on to bed number 5. And it's doing pretty well too. This first row is eggplant. And I usually like to see them a little more dark green than that, as with all the peppers that are next to them. But I don't see any evidence of flea beetles yet. So, and they are growing well and happy as far as I can tell. And then we got 4 varieties of peppers. I almost always have good luck with peppers, so I grow them every year, even though we probably have 10 gallon bags of peppers in the freezer even as we speak. And then the tomatoes are doing quite well this year. Sometimes, don't dig there, boy. Don't dig there. Sometimes they say around here that you shouldn't even put your tomato plants out until June 1st. Well, these have been in here for a few weeks, and they're just looking green and healthy. They're not leggy. They're spreading out kind of nice, and so I'm very encouraged with them. We just have the tomato cages, which never left that spot after the end of last year, and we need to put them up pretty soon. Or if we have a windy day, I'm going to have to stake these guys before I get the cages up. And here's the back end view of Dill's Atlantic Giant. And that might not be enough space for it if it grows the way it's supposed to. But we're hoping maybe we can get one good-sized pumpkin out of it. So that brings us to the marsh, and the marsh has already been home to baby deer, and I think I have a video of the first baby deer that we spotted so far this year. I haven't flushed one out from here recently, but I know they're around finally, so that's pretty nice. And you can see the old cattails, and you can see the new ones coming in, and they're spreading their perimeter, which is nice too. Now, that, of course, is the asparagus patch. I'm having the same problems that I usually have, in that they're not coming up as strongly as I liked, although we've had 3.5 dozen or so stalks. I think I have a picture of us roasting some of them. And And then the ones that come up and get tall tend to fall over, and there's a lot that get tall that seem to be snapped off or munched off or something. But I think we did effectively treat the asparagus beetles, so that won't be as much of a problem this year, and especially if I can manage to keep ahead of it. So, what else we got? In the wildlife department, I know we had a rare mid-morning sighting of the fox next door. I think I got a short video of that. And let's see, what else is going on? Well, here's the fire pit area, looking quite inviting. We've been out here sitting around, haven't had a big fire recently, but you'll notice all those succulents growing all over the place, which have kind of become our go-to ground cover. You know, wherever we don't want grass to grow, we want that stuff to grow. And then we got our pots where these are pond irises coming back up again. Some other perennials. This is anise hyssop, not close to blooming, but coming up like gangbusters. And I just noticed something today, which you probably won't be able to see, but up in there, if you see some sort of brown grassy looking stuff, that's a robin's nest. And I know because the robin has exited it rather noisily several times, so we'll keep an eye on that. That's bee balm there, and bee balm there, and a glass of wine, always nice to have in the garden. And then right in the center there I put one of those cinnamon variety of basil. So, oh, look at Cassie. Cassie is now she's into it. She's as you can see, she's just prancing along happily, which is good. She doesn't always really see where she's going, but she's obviously having a good time. We got the hammock up, so we're in full summertime mode, and the water feature's up. A nice purple iris here in this one. Didn't come back quite as strong as I hoped, but the other water feature over here is also going to be, I believe, a pond iris. Have I got that in focus? I'm not sure. And, yeah, right there. It looks like they might be white ones, but at least it's in place, and the little water pump is going, and Frankie likes it. Right, boy? All right. Let's see. I'm kind of rambling. I'm trying to remember if I have neglected to mention something that I want to mention. Oh, here's this. I found a, when I was looking for replacement plants, I found a peppermint plant. And it's a mint plant, obviously, that tastes like, well, peppermint. And I'm hoping that I can make some homemade mint chocolate chip ice cream that will taste like the stuff you buy in the store, which is more of a peppermint flavor. And okay, so that brings us, well, I can't latch the gate, so I'll leave it open. That brings us to the pond. Now, I'm going to move around here because I don't want to blind you with sun glare. But you might remember that I was saying I had to rebuild the entire top of the pond here because I was getting water behind the liner, and I knew that that was a problem with something spilling over in the stream or the waterfall. And I wanted to lift the waterfall up higher so that it was more of a vertical drop. And I've got some time lapse, which I'll show you some of that. But I managed to get that project done in the last week. And I needed to first take all the rocks off of the entire top area and all the plants, so that I could get down to the pond liner, which is underneath the entire stream / waterfall. And then I had to figure out a way to free up enough of the liner so that I could fold it back. And once I could fold it back, then I could build up the area with dirt. I took a couple of front loader buckets full of dirt in order to bring this end up to the level of the little pool that the water first comes out into. Then it was get the dirt configured and laid down and stuff in such a manner that I could build the waterfall. That took quite a while to get that figured out, because the water just tends to run right underneath all the rocks, which is not what you want to happen. And then finally, once I got the basic configuration, I had to use waterfall gap filler to help conduct all the water on top of the rocks. And I ended up with not exactly what I was thinking that I would get, but a pretty good waterfall and a pretty good vertical drop. And by now I've got all my flowers, my water loving flowers, all around there, and the azaleas are still kind of in bloom. So it's a nice looking time in the pond. And what else? So we got the awning out, and our dianthus coming in, some of which wintered over, some of which is store-bought, and a dachshund that thinks we're going in, but we're not quite yet, boy. And then we got a little bit of action on the fruit trees, and by a little bit, I mean we had a lot of pears to start with, but I don't see that many now, and it's kind of hard for me to see if I'm getting any in focus or not. I think I can find this guy right there. So maybe there's a few dozen, but it's not one of those years when it's like just filled with pears. So I don't know how they're going to do, but sometimes when they get to this stage, they're going to stick around. The nectarine, per area or per size of the tree, is actually doing a lot better. Again, forgive me if I'm not getting things in focus, but there's lots of nectarines around. Oh, come on, there's a cluster, and I think. But they're of a varying size, and usually that means that the smaller ones are going to just drop off eventually. But right now there's literally dozens and dozens of them, as there are peaches, which we also have not had hardly any luck with. Let me see if I can get that cluster. And you can see there's size differences in those too, which means I think that those smaller ones are going to just drop off, but the larger ones might stay around for a while, and with any real luck of any sort, we might get some peaches. So I think that's it. Have I forgotten anything? Have I remembered everything? Do I know who I am? Wait a minute. Why isn't that? There we go. Sorry. Sometimes it's hard to be on both ends of the camera at the same time. But anyway, I think that's going to do it. I'm going to swing around here just because Cassie's having such a good time. I wanted to show her. She's walking around. She's, kind of lively, stepping around. Here comes her son. And, we're just having a pretty good old time in the Jardin du Marvin. And so, get this, like I say, turned around one more time. And I'll say to you all, thanks for watching. And that's going to do it. I'm going to be following this as usual with the trail cam video. Hopefully there's some good footage out there from April 15th to May 15th, which is what this one will be. There won't be any baby deers because they didn't happen until after the 15th. In fact, I think it was the 22nd or 24th that I saw my first one, which you saw the video earlier of that. So maybe next month we'll get some baby deer videos from trail cam. But that's going to do it. Marvin Gardens, May 2023. And we've reached the unofficial start of summer. We are pretty much fully decked out for summer happenings. And the only thing that remains is to get the pool going. But I don't usually do that until summer officially arrives and not meteorological summer. Marvin, you're rambling again. Shut up and say goodbye to the folks. All right. We'll catch you next time in June, where June busts out all over in the garden, and it really looks, one of the best times of the year in the garden is the month of June. So we'll see you next time. Hope you guys are having a great start to your summer, and you had a great Memorial Day. And in addition to the remembrances, I hope you all had great family outings, etc., etc. That's going to do it. We'll see you next time. Marvin Gardens, May 2023. See you in June.
You didn't call
That
me.
surprised you? No, no, I figured I'm here.
Oh, good.
Well, good to see you.
Aujourd'hui, c'est mardi.
Je vais finir la soupe dans 2 semaines. Dans 2 semaines. Oui, dans 2 On arrêtait tendre la pelouse. Ou, oh, ok.